Hello, and you are watching A Sister's Point of View, The Conversation. I am Tanya Kennedy, and this is your panel. Introduce yourself, panel.
Hi, I'm Sharika Dash.
I'm Tanisha. Okay. I'm Tanisha from
I'm
Sister's
Alchemy.
Point of View. I'm Dr. Shamika Pointer.
I am LaCorna Martin.
Altamise, introduce yourself. Can you hear me, Altamise?
Yeah, she did. She introduced herself.
I didn't hear her. Sharika, did you introduce yourself?
Yes, I did. I
All
think
right.
Tanisha, right?
Yeah, let's get started. So today we are going to talk about surviving the system. And I'm curious, ladies, what is your experience with, and let's explain to the audience what we mean by the system. We're talking about the great and wonderful welfare system where you either get a check or some food stamps, or you are getting Section 8, some type of assistance from the government. And we want to talk about how we as women, and specifically women of color, have survived, thrived with and or without that system. So who wants to go first?
Well, I'm Sharika Dash, and I guess I'll give my experience with the system. Um, my first two kids was raised by my mom. So me and my husband, we pretty much didn't have to take care of my kids. But at that point, I was 13. No, I was 14 when I had my first daughter. I shortly had my son at 15. So my mother took care of those two kids. But my mama did ended up needing Medicare or something for those kids. And I remember at the age of 15, me and my daddy actually having to go to court because they tried to sue me for child support at the age of 14 and 15 for kids. They actually wanted my mama to sue me for child support to take care of my kid, for my kids to get medical assistance. So my daddy ended up, and my mom got custody of the kids, and he ended up putting them on his army stuff so that my kids could have insurance because they wanted my parents to sue me for child support so that my kids could have Medicare.
So they wanted to sue you at the age of 14 for child support so that your children could, at 14, you didn't even have a job at 14. Okay. Okay. So you didn't have a job at 14 and they wanted to sue you for child support.
Yeah.
That doesn't even make common sense.
But that's how it goes. If your kids has to get assistance, somebody has to pay for child support for Medicaid and stuff like that. It's not just a welfare check. Even if you just need Medicaid for your kids, somebody has to pay child support.
Does anybody else have any input on that? LaCorna, I know you formerly worked for the system. Have you ever heard or encountered anything like that in your dealings with the system?
I missed what she said. My camera cut out. Can you get her? Can you repeat it for me?
She said that at the age of 14, they tried to get her for child support for her children that were getting medical assistance.
Yeah. If you have children, even though if they're in someone else's care and they don't have legal custody of them, you're still responsible. So the way that the system works in regards to that is basically, even when people are on the temporary assistance for needy families, it's basically kind of like a loan. So the government is literally giving you a loan and they're expecting the biological parent to pay that loan back. So that's why they seek you for the support, the money to pay them back.
So somebody that's not legally responsible for themselves has a child and then is put in a position where they're not legally responsible for themselves are now being made to be legally responsible for another human being.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Because they were her
That's
children.
how
Because they're her children.
Yeah, I had to
because they're
sign
her
my
Yeah,
children.
and I think I know now I think they kind of stopped that. I think the parent is actually responsible for paying child support if you have a minor child now and that happens.
Well, that would be crazy because that means my mama would have had to pay it to herself.
Oh no. That was back then. I'm saying
Okay.
now, your parent is actually responsible. I'm not sure how that goes, but we almost crossed that bridge. So
Yeah.
maybe she
They
knows.
they make you legally sign your kids over. You have to legally give them to their parents so that's as saying they their kids instead of yours.
Right. That's right.
Wow. Dr. Shamika, do you have a take on how the conversation is going right now?
I don't really have a tech, but I do. I have had an experience with the system because I grew up in foster care. So I was awarded the state from the age 2 on up until I actually graduated and went to college. So I do have an intake on, my foster parents receiving checks and stuff, on behalf of me and my other sister. And then when I got out, I got on food stamps. I got on the Medicaid when I had my son. I got on all of those benefits. And then I kind of weaned myself off of them because I felt like, it was kind of bondage in a way because I had been on it all my life. And so my intake on it is I just feel like it helps, but if you can kind of wean yourself away from it, get away from it because it'll keep you in a place where you can be stagnated and you can't grow. So that's just my intake on it, just from my experience and just knowing, firsthand, what they can do to you if you stay on them, to keep you at a place where
Stay
you
right
just
there.
can't grow. So
Stay right there. She said bondage. Do you all agree that this is a form of bondage when you're receiving assistance from the government in that manner? Do you agree that this is a form of bondage?
Yes.
Why, Sharika?
I think
Because
it can be.
because of the fact it don't allow you to have but so much growth. Because if you look at the budgets for the size of the household, who could really make it with that much money for your household? And if you get yourself into a place where you using the system and you have become, it's going to start making you either do one or two things. You're going to do something illegal or you're going to start lying because you get into the fact
Right.
where I'm getting this money, but if I make $5 more in this way, and your family could use more money. Your family, the size of the budgets for the family is really ridiculous. So your family can really use more money. So you start to develop either I'm going to start lying because my money going to get cut off, or I'm going to do something illegal. Either because you're not going to try to get you a job because you're scared that, okay, as soon as my check get this amount, I'm going to lose all this right here. So it get to the point where it puts you at risk of doing other things. So I think you either stuck in that position where you have less than what you need for your family, or you doing under the table illegal stuff in that you risk of losing your family. And to me, it's even hard for you to say you're married because you almost got to lie about whether you got a husband or not because you don't want his income to count. And it puts you in a bad place.
Well, I mean, I can testify firsthand about the husband situation. When I was married the first time, and I didn't know anything about it. I was pregnant with my first child, and my mother told me, "You cannot say you know where he is, because if you say you know where he is, they're not going to give you anything." So literally, I had just gotten married. I was pregnant with my first son. He is sitting in the lobby, and I walked back there, told them I didn't know where this man was. When he finally got a job, they were garnishing his wages, and every so many months, they would send us his child support back to the house. So literally, they would take money out of his check every week and send it back to us so that we could keep the food stamps and the check that I was getting from welfare in order to have the food stamps so that we could continue to get the medical benefits and the things that we were getting. As far as they knew, he was nowhere to be found. Mind you, I slept next to him every night, but they didn't know that. So they were garnishing. And when we finally actually broke up, When they sent me the check, it was a blessing. But at the time we were married, we were getting them checks. They would come and he would like, did they send you my money back? Yeah, they sent the money back. That's right here. I got it. They'll put this in the bank. And that was literally how we lived for years. So I don't know if anybody else has any stories of where you had to flat out lie to get help.
Yeah, it comes to that point. For some people, it's like even for, I ain't gonna say myself because people watching this, but but
can't be scared now, but we lie. Can't be scared now.
For women who have multiple. Well, listen, for women who have multiple children, it's extremely hard because we can go get a job. And it still affects us because it's like Sharika said, at the household size and what they actually allow you to get. And one or two things are not going to be taken care of. You're not going to be able to buy those groceries, or you're not going to be able to afford that health care. And when you have a large number of children, one of your kids gets sick. So there, at that point, there's co-pays, and then there's medicine for co-pays and things that you normally wouldn't have to pay, if you were still relying on the system. So it does. It makes it hard, and it puts you in a situation where you have to work at the table. You have to do, work where they can't see where your income is coming from. You're absolutely right.
So do you all think that it benefits to have these things in place? Do you think that is a hindrance, specifically in the African American community? Do you all think that this is a benefit or a hindrance?
Tanya, let me say this. You have to remember that the assistance is supposed to be just that. It's supposed to be something that's temporary. Not to say that, like I said, I've been on assistance and all of that type of stuff, but it's supposed to be temporary. It's not supposed to be a situation where where it's a lifestyle where you've been on it your entire life. Say you have people who their grandmother was on it, their mother's on it, now you're on it. So it's not supposed to be that. It's supposed to be a temporary situation. And unfortunately, everybody does not have the same path. So they don't look at it as this person, this person, this person. It's just looked at as a whole, thinking that at some point you're supposed to be at a certain level. Unfortunately, that's not everybody's story, but that's the way that the system is supposed to be set up, for it to be temporary. Because I know at one point they even told us to start asking people what their plans are to get off of the system, even to the point where they sent out an email telling us to start looking at jobs, to tell a client, this job is available, would you consider applying?
Yeah, I know.
And the only thing about,
go ahead.
Oh, okay. The thing that would hurt me, I worked 2 jobs. And when that income was documented, at the time I had 5 children. Y'all know I got way more now, but I had 5 children, and I wasn't able to get anything. I wasn't able to get food stamps or anything like that. And I was fine with it, actually. But the thing that broke me is, let's just say something like this happened in a pandemic, situation, where it didn't even necessarily have to be a pandemic. It could have been that I got fell short in the area. I still could not go to Division of Family Services and ask them for any type of assistance. They would go back, 30 to 60 days sometimes, and tell me that I didn't qualify. And it was actually, it was an essential need at that point. And I felt some type of way because, I seen times where I was standing in the line and I heard females talking about their children's father gave them the money to do what they needed to do, but they were going to use it for something else. And they were actually in line to get help, and they got that help and I didn't, and I thought that was crazy.
But you have to remember, like I said before, it's not set up to look at you as an individual. It's looking at you as a unit. So it's looking at the typical family unit, is not looking at the fact that, oh, you have multiple children, so the system is supposed to assist you. They're looking at it as this is a family unit, so they're expecting that mother, that father to take care of their child. That's not everybody's story. Believe me, I know. I'm a single parent myself, but the system is set up on a basis. It's not set up for each individual family. It's set up to look at you as, we're doing this for you temporarily, but ultimately they want you to be able to get it together and sustain and not be in the system. And it's not about, and I can understand what you're saying as an individual, but that's just the way it's set up. It's not set up to look at your individual family. It's set up to look at what they consider a family unit and where they want to see it go.
So do you think, does anybody else have an opinion about it? Like, do you think that in some respects, even though, say it again?
It's some noise. It's really dragging or lagging or something.
Everybody mute your speakers real quick so we can figure out where it's coming from. Okay, can you all hear me? Sharika, unmute yours.
Yes.
Tanisha, unmute yours. Dr. Shamika, unmute yours. Ultimately, unmute yours, sweetie. Okay. I don't know. It's coming from somebody's background, and I don't know where it's coming from. Somebody's mic is up too loud. So, does everybody agree that it's supposed to be temporary? How do we see this going from generation to generation? What do you guys think? Mies, I can't hear you at all. Turn your volume up. Turn it up. I can't hear you, baby. I see your lips moving. So we may have to institute some subtitles.
She's saying a lot too. You can't hear nothing.
I know. And in my mind, whatever she has to say is uber important.
Yeah.
It's disturbing my life right now. While we figure out what's going on with Altamisa's microphone, does anybody else have a take on what's going on? Dr. Shamika, you are our resident counselor. What is your take on why this runs through entire families like that?
You asking me why do I feel like it'll keep people in a place where they can't maybe function without the food stamps? Is that what you're asking me?
Yes, ma'am. It'll run through whole generations of families. Will be on welfare for years and years and years. Why is that?
Because, it takes one family to take a stand. Even in my family, I have 10 siblings. And we've basically, all of us have weaned ourselves off food stamps. But, it's just a mindset. If you could help your family see that you can function without, I feel like if somebody in the family take a stand and maybe speak up on it, then it won't go from generation to generation. But if everybody just sit back and do the same thing over and over and over, then it's going to continue. So I feel like if somebody just take a stand in the family, if you know that you have experienced bondage and being having to lie about your food stamps, having to try to get over on people because, I need you to tell them I'm making this amount of money, and that's not the right way to live. And a lot of people, they continue to live that way, but it just takes somebody taking a stand and doing what's right, and then letting them see the fruits of your labor. letting them see that you can live off, that you don't have to be on food stamps, and that you can still function. I think people get so caught up on the big baskets. I know when I used to be on them, I used to love going in the grocery store, just filling that basket up and the groceries overflowing, you know. And then once you get to a place where you off of them, you are limited. I mean, you can get one egg, you can get a couple of drinks, you can get some bread. I mean, you have to get the basics because it's a different feeling. And once you come off of that, it's kind of like I feel like I'm being robbed a little because I can't get what everybody else is getting now. I can only get exactly what I need. So it's a different feeling. And I think a lot of people are addicted to that feeling that they have that overflow in that basket, but they're not looking at the fact that they're having to lie, they're having to cheat, they're having to say things that they're not, you know, supposed to be saying just to keep those things in that basket on this side full. So I feel like if somebody just take a stand and everybody just realize that you don't have to have a lot. You just have to have what you need sometimes, you know, and sometimes having a lot means that you have to compromise and sacrifice some things that you're not really wanting to sacrifice, that you can get in trouble, you can end up in jail. You know, it's a lot of things that comes with this side of the basket being overflow. But somebody needs to just take a stand and live that life that's showing that, you know, if I can do it, you can do it. Let me help you do it. Reach back and help, you know, reach out. I know you like this lifestyle. I know that the basket is full and I know your refrigerator is full, but you're not doing it the right way. So let me help you out. Let me get you to a place where you don't feel like you have to have all this, and I can help you budget your money and help you get to a place where you can function without being on it, you know? So basically it's just about taking a stand and doing what's right regardless.
Altamise, do we have a microphone on you, darling? Nope, we still don't have sound for you. I don't know. Oh my gosh. You look cute though. You look good
And
on
she
camera.
has so
You
much
look good.
to say. Look at
I
her.
know. The thing about it is that as women and women of color specifically, like for example, I work for the school system. And because I work for the school system, I have heard young kids say to me, when I graduate, I'm going to have kids so that I can get food stamps and a check so that I don't have to get a job. I have heard young girls say that. And after I finish looking stupid, because I'll be dumbfounded, like, the freak did you just say? Then I begin to light in on them. Why would you want that as your future? Why wouldn't you want to go get a good job or go to college? Well, my mom and my grandma, and they start going down the family lineage of how many people for how many years have been on the system, and they're okay with it because they've got all the things they need. We always have groceries, our bills are always paid, and this is just how we live, and this is how the family lives. And it becomes this dynamic of poverty, and it's coming from our youngsters. Like the kids are reiterating that daddy's a dope dealer, mommy's on welfare, and so that's how they live, and they think it's okay. They perpetuate that. So I don't know, ladies, did anybody else? Sharika, did you have anything to add to that?
Well, the one misconception that I see people carry a lot, that is people of color on the system. That's a misconception because there's a whole lot of people on the system, and people have been using and manipulating the system long before we did. We just catching up and just getting into the fact that we are here. But that's my biggest, because that's the reason why I felt the need to have this show, and I knew it was going to come up again, so that could be something that we talk about. That, to me, I just hate that stereotype, and I hate because that is the biggest misconception, that Black people are the ones that's thriving off the system. Believe me, we are catching up. This system has been around and in place, because government assistance is more than just welfare, food stamps. It's student loans. It's all different types of government assistance. They get government assistance to come over here and go to school, and it's all types of government assistance. And I know welfare is the typical one they talk about because of the fact that that seems to put us in a place, but there is all types of government governments
programs and stuff,
giving out. but we're focusing on welfare and stuff like that, but it's just not us on welfare either. I think that's the biggest thing, that misconception there is, that only Black people are using the system.
And the only reason why I spotlight women of color, or us as a people of color, is because we can only deal with us as a whole.
No, but it's not just true. The last show we had last week, that was the first thing the guy said, that it was people of color and the system was stifling us, and it seemed like it was put here. And I made the comment that, okay, well, if that was the case, when drugs came into the picture, it put us on an even scale, because drugs had a bunch of white people running to get welfare and assistance too.
I think what he was referring to was the fact that they used us as a test subject to see if they could destroy families by pumping welfare into a certain group of people. And once that system destroyed a certain group of people, then we throw it out for everybody else. And I think that was his point. But I understand what you're saying.
But do you think Black people was the first people receiving assistance?
No, I don't know, because I don't know. I just know I think that was his point.
I think it just became more knowledgeable and more talked about when we start receiving it, but I don't think we were the first group of people to receive government assistance. I think it's more talked about now because we do receive it, and that makes it something else to talk about Black people, but I don't think that we're the first people that receiving government assistance. Anybody else have a take on that?
Artemis.
Yes, can y'all hear me? Well, I have a couple of things to say.
Okay. Say them all, child. We've been waiting.
So to piggyback on what you're saying, I think if you look at the Jewish, when the 1900s and 1800s, that was a form of assistance when they would go to the soup kitchens and the government would give them cheese and stuff. But I think with us, they actually implemented a system. That's when you get the system. But a lot of the Jewish, when the Jewish people was scattered and they was going to different cities and different countries for refuge, I think that's when your first really of the system of the government of helping came about. But I think Teddy Roosevelt was the one that said, let's implement a system where you have to do this in order to receive the cheese, the milk, the eggs, the basic things of your family.
And they called it the New Deal, was what they called it when he did it.
Right. So, but once again, when you're in poverty and you're just looking to eat for the next day, you're not looking for the future. You're not even thinking, if you can make it to next week, then you're good. So once again, God had to teach me what welfare system is about survival. It's not about positioning yourself for wealth. And so one of the things that, and this was crazy how I weaned myself off of the system, is before I moved to Georgia, I literally, because I got mad, I got irritated because $300 was not enough food for me and my family, and there's only 3 of us, but we can eat. And I remember after coming out of prayer saying, you know what? I am going to be able to afford a $600 grocery bill, and I'm going to buy it with cash. And so I prophesied to my own self. I said, in the next 3 years, I will no longer be on welfare. Little do I know, last year he started weaning me off. I have not been on food stamps for a whole year.
Congratulations.
And at first it was hard because it's like $300, $500 worth of groceries. I said, no. What we're gonna do is we're gonna set a budget. And so the same amount of food that I would get each month, I still get it. I just use $250 to go grocery shopping. I make sure all my bills is paid to take $250 to fill up my refrigerator. And so I've created prophetic systems to where if we can do $250, we're going to increase it next year. And we're not going to do it off our income tax money. We're going to do it off of the income we get monthly. because usually I buy all kinds of stuff from my income tax money, because even additional with the food stamps, I still take 7 to 8. I realized one day that I ended up getting $1,200 worth of food stamps. I gave them away. I got $600 worth of groceries for me and my family, but I blessed people. And I said, God, if I can do that, if you allow me to get $1,200 in food stamps, I want to know what that feels like to have $1,200 of my own cash to spend and to give to people after I have taken care of my own household. So God showed me that being on welfare is a poverty mindset. That's bondage. And so I was like, okay, then show me how to get from depending on a system that is not to help us, but to get to a system to where, because you say abundance, you say prosperity, and I started looking at that and I understood, okay, so welfare is just my poverty mindset. I got to break my poverty mindset to even transition of taking $150 and saying, oh, I can't get that. No, you can't. You got to know how to go to a grocery store and budget what you want. I get 3 eggs. I get milk. And sometimes God is so good to, I go to the grocery store and the things that I thought I could get one, he allows me to get 4 of them. Recently, I just said, okay, Lord, I want to stop shopping at Walmart. I want to shop at Publix. So I took $250 was my budget. I went over $27. But that's me implementing the principles of God, because if I say I have faith to believe God for wealth, and God tells us He gives us the power to believe and get us wealth, what are we doing to start activating the wealth? If you know you don't want to be on food stamps, you know, okay, so what stores do you want to look at? Shop at the stores you want to shop at. I want to shop full time either at Kroger, not Kroger, but Publix or Trader Joe's. So I have to, at first when I went in there, I was like, I don't know what to buy because the price is too overpriced. I said, no. We buy that mindset and we go and get the initials of what we need. And so happened, everything I bought was 2, buy 1, get 1 free. You buy 2 of these, so once again, God is teaching me on a principle level of budgeting and quit saying what you can't have. And he said, are you not worthy? See, sometimes we feel like we're not worthy of having and establishing the things of God. That we think we just limited to this because, and I was upset that I actually was on food stamps. My mom had 5 kids and $700 was not enough groceries for 5 kids. We can eat. And she tell you real quick, she want her $700 and she was getting 3 more. She was trying to find somebody 3 more extra $100 because it wasn't enough. And so when I had to get on child support and had to do the system, I was really upset with my own self, because I said, how did you allow yourself to get like this? What is you attracting to where you said you ain't never want to be like this, but yet you're finding yourself like this? We got to figure out a way to get ourselves far from this system. And so I really been asking God to break my mindset, to show me and teach me ways of how to break the cycle, because it's a cycle, it's a generation curse, and it's a cycle for us as minorities.
So wow, you said a whole lot, baby. You said a whole lot. The enemy must have had a system muted, because I promise you said a whole lot. I don't even know what to say after all of that. Does anybody have anything to say after all of that? Because she just kind of said, Shrek. So I don't know. Does anybody have anything to say after all of that? You didn't stuck us all silent. I mean, I don't know what to say.
I was just
Corner,
you unmute. We can't hear you.
Unmute, Mo.
Still mute.
I'm not, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I was gonna say that what is it Pointer? I can't see it. Dr. Pointer?
Pointer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dr. Pointer, and what Tamis said, I feel like it goes hand in hand because it's shifting you. There has to take something that has to take place that says, you know what, not enough is enough. This is not. And she said both of them talked about budgeting, which is very, very important when you want to, make a decision that, I was in the system at one point, but I want to come off the system, and you have to get away from that. Like she said, poverty mindset, or you can call it fear of thinking that you're not going to be able to afford it. And like I said, I've been there. Trust me. But once you step out on that faith and, like she said, if you're trusting and believing God that you can sustain, you will be able to. And it's not, at first, it's going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe how much they want me to pay. But then you'll start to see that, you know what, I can't afford this. I can do this. But you can't be in, like she said, that poverty mindset. You have to have a plan. Even when you go in the store, like Dr. Pointer says you have to budget. You have to, write down, what you want to make for your family for the week, or, all of that type of stuff, and what you're going to need. Even in this time now, it's like, I go to the grocery store. Okay, what do we need? You know what? We're going to stock up on some canned goods because we don't know what's finna, what I'm saying? What if they start doing this or that? You know what I'm saying? Start making choices that are wise and not necessarily going to the store, buying everything. We don't need a whole bunch of cookies and chips and all of that type of stuff or whatever. Buy stuff you could cook,
Right.
And I found,
so
because
I'm in agreement.
I went from when my husband passed, and I ended up having to right before he passed, I had to jump back on the system. And I went in the welfare office with attitude. Like my attitude was stank. I walked in and listen, I need y'all hurry up and give me these stamps because I'm only going to be in here for 6 months. After this 6 months is over, I'm through with this as soon as I find me a goddamn job. And they were like, man, why are you in here? Because I need help right now. I had an attitude. Like I walked in the door, man. I walked in the door angry that I was even in there because we had survived so long without it. I had gotten used to figuring it out. Okay, if we low, I'm gonna hit this food bank in between here and here because if we ain't got it, I'm gonna figure it out. But I'm not going to get these people and telling them all my business, my underwear size, how many kids live in my house. They won't think your business. What's your shoe size? I was like, I'm done. And so when I had to get back on it, I was irritated. So when I was able to slide on back off, I was like, whoa, okay. I can go back to being a normal American citizen. It's when you get off and you realize the freedom that it affords you to not be beholden to somebody's. They telling you, I was never able to get HUD. I was never able to get that. Like the $10 housing was never something that I was blessed or cursed with. But the thing about it is that they telling you who can stay in your house, who can spend the night, how long they can be there. And I'm like, you know what? I don't need that nowhere. I got my family too big. Cutting, Clem, Johnny Bob and them go be at the crib. My auntie and them, my cousin, her lights out. She got to come stay. I ain't got time for y'all to be in my business like that. So I know that for me, it was freeing. I don't want my kids to think that this is just how you're supposed to live. And so I had to learn, like Alchemy said, I had to learn how to walk in the store and go, can we know? Y'all can get one of those a piece. You can't have 12 of them. You get one. Get you one, get you one, y'all get one, and that's it. Because this is my money I'm spending. And I find myself in the store going, this is cash. These ain't food stamps. I'm going to need y'all to figure that out. You know you can't have it. How much is that? And then my 18-year-old now, her own job, she buy her own snacks. She be at the store, my mommy, do you want something? Yes, baby, yes. I want whatever it is you're going to bring, mommy. But it feels good to be able to spend your money. Like it feels good to be able to say, I have money, I work for this, I'm at the store, and I can buy things for myself. And when LaCorna comes back, I want to ask her before, because I know she is. LaCorna, do you know if there was any plans in place to start to educate women or families as they were transitioning off on how to budget?
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you now.
I said, was there ever any plans that you heard of how to teach women how to budget from transitioning from welfare to actually having to spend their cash? Was there ever a plan in place for that?
For that now, I can't answer that for you because, originally, like say my grandmother's time, right? Majority of the people that came in employees into the welfare system were the people that were on the system, because the thought process at that time was, this is how we're going to get you off. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of those people became employees. So that was something that, but then, I mean, there are things that are even currently, I can't necessarily say they're the best thing that is in place, but even they put, stipulations or limitations, like, at some point, okay, if your child is a certain age, yeah, we can continue to help you out. However, you might have to be in school, or you might have to be working a certain amount of hours. So there are things that are in place. They're probably not the best way to put them in place because of the fact that, some of the employees are not as kind, or, what I'm saying, for the people. But originally, the thought process was to employ you. That's why they ask that, when you get those jobs and they ask you those questions, because they want to see that something is happening, something is working. But to me, now there's a glitch in that system. It needs to be looked at again. We need to revamp it.
Well, I'm going to tell you the truth. The thing that worked for me the most is some of them people act like you getting that money out their pocket. They treat you so rude and they treat you so bad. 5 years ago, I went in there.
Right.
And I applied. I had 6 kids. I was moving to Georgia because I was running from South Carolina because we had all kind of stuff going on, and I was just ready. I said, God, I'm just getting away from everything. I know the money look good, but if it takes me losing my kids, I'm gonna just get away from everything, because I went from $100 and something thousand tax-free income to come to Georgia and say, I'm just gonna start all over. I'm gonna get myself in school and I'm gonna get some assistance for me and my kids. If you listen to how the people talk to you, and especially if you weren't in a situation where this was what you needed, I almost started to tell them people how much I was making and some things about their mama and their daddy when they started talking to me and want to know where my husband was at, why I got so many kids, and how that man left me with all them kids. And by the time the people started asking you all them questions like that, it seemed so degrading that I told them people keep it, and me and my kids would figure it out. And from that day on, I never got another assistant. So they might be doing the right thing. They degrade people don't want their money, but that it's coming.
But you know what, Sharika, can you hear me?
Yes.
That was actually what motivated me to work in the system, was the way that I was treated when me and my ex-husband fell on hard times. Because I came in and it was like the person was talking so down to me, and it was like, you're talking to me, you don't know me, and I'm sitting here, I'm probably more educated than you are. And you know what? And when I went into that office that time, and it took me when I lost a job. And when I tell you, I was the type, like, I'm not finna be on nobody's assistance. It took me 2 years of us going through and struggling to say, you know what, I can't let this go on. But I didn't want to be on assistance. And I let our family struggle, not wanting to, quote unquote, get on the assistance. But what happened was, that's how God moved on me, because it changed my mindset. Because when I went in there and saw how people were treated, how I was treated, I said, you know what, God, let me work in this system. And I promise you, I'll be a different face.
And you was, because when it was,
right. And I worked in that, and I did it for those 5 years. But in that time, I learned I learned that the system is not set up to help people also. But what I wanted to do was at least be that face for people to know that, you know what, everybody that works in the welfare system is not a quote unquote a-hole. You know what I'm saying? There are people that are compassionate that can relate, and that's what I wanted to be.
It get bad when you hang up and call back. Hang up. Hang up. Hello, this is LaCourta Long. Hey, nigga. You know how many times I have called and hung up because I was trying to find you? Hang up. Let me call back.
But, you know, and it's just that, you know, you just have to, you know, and there are people in the system that do actually care. But,
Yeah,
and you know what I'm saying? And then I was one because I didn't like the way that I was treated. You know what I'm saying? And I think that ultimately just that mindset is why I was able to move the way I was financially from when I worked there to making way more money now. You see what I'm saying? So I think that when you think about how those people are treating people, just like they say with karma, it'll come back around. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes, you know what? You just have to pray for those people, do what you have to do for your family, but don't let that be the end all. Don't let it be that this is what we're always going to do. This is what we're always going to be on. And that's how you break that cycle. You know what I'm saying? Like when Sharika said, she said, you know what? We ain't going through this. We're not finna do this, because she had to take a stand. As Dr. Pointer said, you have to say, you know what? We're not going to continue with this. So even if you have to be on the system for however long, make a decision in yourself. That's why it made you uncomfortable. You knew that was not your story anymore. You see what I'm saying?
And then my case is, the sad thing about it is when I went through all that stuff, they ain't want to give me no assistance. I told them I didn't want their assistance. I was good. I go to school, open my business. Here I go just started my business. My daughter ended up with diabetes. So here we go. I'm going to work, trying to make sure, okay, because now my daughter got diabetes, I done dropped the Medicaid. Because I didn't want nothing from them. I was just done with them. I was going to figure it out. Me and my family was going to make it. 11 years old, daughter ended up with diabetes. So now we got to figure out a health insurance that's going to accept this child already with diabetes that ain't going to kill us, because I'm still in school trying to go to school and paying for it out my pocket because I don't want student loans either. Here I get a call. You were supposed to show up for a 504 meeting or something for your daughter. And who in my house but defects want to know what all I got for my kids? The same people who won't help you, but they come running in your house to see what you got for your kids and what your kids don't have.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that work? I gotta go to work, but you're telling me I miss a meeting at the school. I gotta go to school and do what I gotta do. But here you go, here y'all leave my house want to know, and I'm on a plan. Y'all ain't telling me what y'all gonna do to help me so that I can make it to these meetings at the school. But you just want me to figure it all out.
And
yeah, and that just really.
Go ahead, Corner.
Somebody was talking. I missed it.
It was me.
And that really boils down to, you know, when what type of case manager that you're dealing with at that point, because you're going to have those case managers that don't care. You know what I mean? And they're just going to, you know, be going by the book, and because they're going to be like, thank you, next. Because I remember, I know what it was to be bogged down with 60 cases. But, you know, everybody doesn't have that mindset to look at, you know what, I'm dealing with this family. You know what I'm saying? Where I want to, you know, you want to get personal. You want to know everybody's story and try to make those suggestions and, you know, help them the best way that you can. But unfortunately, nobody wants to work in the welfare system. That really, the people that are in, that are passionate about it aren't in that system. They get burnt out. I got burnt out. To the point where I was sick and still working, and ended up having to have two surgeries after different things that were happening in my body, just because I was trying to be out here hustling, working, taking care of 60 families and not taking care of my own. So part of it is the fact that the higher ups don't take care of their employees.
Wow.
And then they can't take care of the families the way that they really want to. And then they begin to look at the families as just a number.
So it almost sounds like the people that are, it's like a pyramid. The people that are on welfare, who are at the bottom, they are in a certain type of bondage. Then you have the workers that are above them that are in a different type of bondage because they're trying to keep from being these people at the bottom. So they're working these jobs. And then you have the bureaucrats on the top who are just doling out orders, but they're really not taking care of the employees. So it sounds like a system that is designed for failure all the way down.
Right, because if the head is not right, the bottom will fall out.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So ladies, and we've been having this conversation, and as ladies that have dealt with both sides of the system, what is everybody's one word of advice that they would give to somebody that is trying to get out of the system? What would be your one word of advice for a family or a husband or wife or somebody that's trying to get out of the system and change their situation? If you could give them one little paragraph of something to say, what would it be? Anybody can go first.
Can go.
Tanisha?
Okay. I think that they should have a plan. Give yourself a reasonable amount of time to use those resources, and then come off of them. Give yourself a deadline. That way you're not dependent on it. And you're not stagnated into that lifestyle, and it becomes a generational curse, so to say, for your children and your children under those children.
Anybody else have a word of wisdom and or encouragement for our audience and for those that will watch this later?
I definitely agree with Tanisha. You have to, I mean, I don't know if everything is supposed to be, we're talking from a biblical perspective, but you're supposed to, when you have, everybody has these vision boards, you know what I mean? Where you want to see yourself going, or even if it is from a biblical perspective, you say, write the vision and make it plain. You have a mindset. You have to know where you want to go. You know what I'm saying? Because at some point, it should become uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? Because the thing about it is there's going to be that unction. There's something on the inside of you that's going to want more. And it's going to be like, how do I get more? Yeah, you can do stuff illegal. You can do all this type of stuff. But at the end of the day, what's going to be the end result? But if it's from that positive mindset, like Sharika said, you know what? I went to school. I did what I had to do for my family. I needed more education, so that's what I decided to do. Or like Anthony said, I had to have a budget. You know what I'm saying? It's just like you have to have that desire, like Tanisha said, to break that curse. And once you have that desire and once you have that plan, it will happen because that's what's pushing you forward.
Anyone else, ladies? Altamise?
I would say,
but also too, give yourself, because even though I got weaned off, you know how many times I tried to apply for it and God wouldn't let me apply? I would fall asleep. I couldn't make the paperwork. It's all kinds of stuff was happening. I was like, okay, you really want me to not have this stuff. So it's like, it's okay. It is okay to feel the emotions of transitioning, because anytime you're transitioning, you have to deal with the reality. You can't pretend that if you're feeling fearful, deal with the fear. You know, and be real with yourself and say, okay, this is scary, God, but I am trusting you, and I'm not sure I'm a spiritual person. And so everything I do, I really do lean on God and his guidance, because when I get scary, when you have faith is very scary. And when you launch out in a deep in an area that is unknown, and you can't rely on other people because they have no idea what you're talking about, because they are not there, their mindset can't comprehend what you're trying to achieve. There's no blueprint for you to look at and say, okay, such and such did it like this. You have to rely. I have to rely on my faith, and I have to rely on God's instructions on how I'm going to move past, because fear is a stumbling block. It will petrify you. You will get stuck, and you won't move any further because you just scared of the unknown. And so it is a faith move. You have to be real with yourself and say, hey, it's okay that, there's no groceries in there, but you got to believe that God, if God told you this, he's going to provide a way for groceries to come up. I mean, I've had things when I was like, okay, it's only 2 things of meat in there. Unexpected check coming out, which is $150 groceries. So God is not, like I said, I'm not sure, but I do biblical principles. I believe in faith. I believe in propelling my faith in areas that seem impossible and allow God to show and manifest that He is my God. And so I just would encourage you that when you have faith, fear, turn your fear into faith. Take baby steps in what you're trying to accomplish. Because sometimes it might overwhelm you. And you don't want to be overwhelmed. And the whole purpose of being overwhelmed, then you're going to isolate yourself, and then you're going to get discouraged. Take baby steps to what your goal is. As Corner said, get your vision, write your vision, and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps to how you're going to accomplish that one thing. If it's nothing but, let's just go to Cole and see what they have to offer. We ain't buying nothing. We just going and walking around to see exactly, okay, is there's things we can't afford. Okay, we are. Okay. So, don't overwhelm yourself in the process. Just take little baby steps and just have faith to know that if you step out, God is going to cover you and catch you. He's not going to leave you to fall and let you fall flat on your face.
Dr. Pointer.
I would say get a support group, get some maybe get a couple of people that transition from the post, and surround yourself around them so they can, get around people that understand where you're trying to get to and where you're coming from. So I would say just get some support, some understanding support, and then people that surround you that's still trying to live her life, or they're taking advantage of it. So stay around positive people and just, get somebody that can help you transition and support you in your transition.
Sharika?
Well, only thing I would say is that I think that everybody should take their time getting off the system, because we don't want nobody running off the system feeling that they got to get off now or something like that. I think it's a time for everybody, and you'll know when it's your time. I think you actually going to get that move. Just like for me, it was somebody to disrespect me. Everybody going to know when it's their time, because God will make you move when you don't want to move. And I must say, I don't budget. Me and my kids still eat all the same things. So when God was ready to move me, He allowed there to be a way that my life didn't have to change in no shape, form, or fashion. So I think everybody has their time. You'll know when it's your time. I'm not going to say put no limits on it, because you don't know what God can do. Just because you don't have food stamp, that don't mean you ain't going to have steak and lobster in your refrigerator. So you do things in your own time at your own pace, and what's for you is going to be yours anyway. And that's just how I feel about it.
And you know something, I want to say something else though. Everything that we do in life starts with us as a person, y'all. And the thing about it is, if you are not in a good place in life with yourself, it's hard for you to do anything. It's hard for you to even believe in yourself, to be able to not depend on these resources, because that might feel like the only guarantee. You gotta definitely, like Dr. Pointer said, surround yourself with an excellent support, system. Positive people, positive energy around you is so important, because you need that encouragement. If people are not around you, building you up, because I'm gonna tell you something, a lot of people who are stagnated on the system's resources have low self-esteem. They don't believe that they can go to school. They don't believe that they can start their own careers. They don't believe that they can do those things because they don't believe in themselves. So I think that it really starts with the person that you are. I think you have to build the person that you want to be, to be able to prove to yourself that you can do these things, you can exceed the guidelines that people have set for you.
And you know what? I agree with all of you ladies and the points that you have made. I have two things. One, I think that I've heard for years and years from my pastor that you have to hate something in order to change it. So when you get this thing in your life that you just absolutely cannot stand it drives you insane. The thought of it makes you crazy. I remember being at my church when we first got there, and my husband and I would struggle. And every year for several years, we were the charity family. We was always the ones getting the Christmas presents. We were always the one getting the free meal. We were always the one that had to get rides because the car had broke down. So that became a point of me saying, I am tired of this bondage. I'm tired of this poverty. And so I think a lot of times You have to want, or as Tanisha just said, you have to see yourself different. You have to hate the position you're in, see yourself different, and then move towards wanting to change it. The other thing I want to say is that if any of you ladies have any information on support groups, if any of you ladies are willing to put yourselves out there to be a support for any of our listeners, we will put your information in the comment section. If any of you are willing to get contacted by people that need support, I would welcome you to go ahead and do that, because it's one thing for us to talk about it. It's another thing for us to be about it. And so in order to reach one or to teach one, we have to be willing to reach one. And so as women of God and as women of color, I think it is our duty to put ourselves in a position to say, hey, do you need help? Do you need somebody to be your buddy, your accountability partner? Are you trying to get off the system? You trying to change something? We're here for that. And so I would encourage any of you to throw your information in the comments afterwards. If just a way to, even if it's just your Facebook handle, for somebody to be able to reach out to you and say, hey, I heard what you said. Can you help me, or can you be my accountability partner?
Well, I'm gonna say this, Tanya, and I'm gonna challenge that, because there are 6 strong women here right now, and the reason why I'm gonna challenge that is I'm gonna say, we can do better than saying, reach out to somebody. Well, we can create that support group that we talking about. Every last person on this cast, is a strong individual and has that story, and we can all help somebody. So I'm definitely going to challenge that, in the hopes that we're all willing to work together to create that support group for other people.
But I challenge better than that, because I'm going to challenge us to start our support group. And I also know that every one of y'all ladies has some type of field, some type of substance that y'all can give other people that needs to get a job or help them start their own businesses. I know we have a stylist. I know we have a counselor. I know Miss Tanisha, you have several trades that you can teach. Miss Kwana, I know you got trades you can teach. So let's start teaching and helping people to form paths for jobs and open businesses and stuff. Because I know all my ladies on this panel got some talent that they can share.
And honestly, Sharika, that's what it's about. That's what it's about. Because here's the thing, ladies. Well, I'm gonna tell you something. That's extremely important, because it's exactly what Tanya just said. We can talk about it, but I don't want to be a part of something that's just being talked about. I want to be able to help the matter.
Right.
So it's so easy to say what people need, but let's give people what they need. So I'm all for it.
Yeah,
right,
I agree with Tanisha. I agree. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Me? Oh no, I was just saying I agree with Tanisha. She said, it can't be just, she said it has to be, something where you go ahead and put it in place, because it's kind of like when you ask that question, am I my brother's keeper? Am I my sister's keeper? Absolutely. But if there's something in place where you have a unit, where you have all of these different facets, as Sharika said, then that becomes a foundation for something greater as a unit to be able to pour into other people.
That's right.
Am I on the right page, Tanisha?
Huh?
Am I on the right page?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Right. Well, so I agree with that.
I would be admonishing my audience to be on the lookout for some type of support group for helping families and individuals that are trying to transition from the system to off the system, because the one thing that we are about is helping people change stuff. That's the whole reason why we do these broadcasts. That's the whole reason why we gather together. It's to help people change stuff. So we stop talking about it and be about it. That is my main focus.
Okay,
say that again.
We're going to give away 2 NHA classes, and I'll put the 8 courses under here.
Amen. All right. Okay. All right. Wow. So I am excited about where this is going. Ladies, it has been an honor and a pleasure to be on here. You guys have been watching A Sister's Point of View, the conversation. Please stay tuned to all of our broadcasts and all of our information, because we are out here doing big things in small places with big ideas. And we want you guys to stay tuned. God bless you. We love you, and good night.
All right.
All right, ladies, I look forward